For 7 years, Sophia believed she had built the kind of marriage most women prayed for. She met Daniel when she was 24. At the time, he was a charming gentleman who worked at a growing tech firm in Lagos. And back then, Daniel had a way of talking about the future that made her believe everything was possible. He promised her a big house, good schools for the children, yearly vacations abroad, and a life where money would never be their problem. And Sophia, who had grown up in a middle-class home with parents who always struggled to make ends meet, held on to those promises with all her heart. By the time they had their 2 children, Ethan and Lily, life seemed stable. They lived in a beautiful 3-bedroom apartment in Lagos too, and even though Sophia wasn't working at the time, she ran a small online home decor business on the side, while Daniel took care of most of the bills. They weren't rich yet, but they were comfortable, and Sophia truly believed she was married to a responsible man who prioritized his family, until the day Daniel drove home in a brand new black Toyota Prado SUV. It was a Thursday afternoon, and Sophia was sitting on the balcony upstairs, folding laundry when she heard the smooth sound of a car engine. Outside, she looked down and almost dropped the clothes when she saw Daniel driving into the compound, grinning like a man who just won a lottery. Sophia ran downstairs breathlessly. "Oh my God, Daniel, is this ours?" Daniel stepped out proudly and adjusted his tee. "Of course it is ours, babe. I told you this year would be different. We are moving up." Sophia's excitement was uncontrollable. She hugged him tightly with pride, and for a moment she thought that finally all the sacrifices, all the late nights, all the time she managed without complaining was all paying off. That night, after they had dinner and put the children to bed, Sophia sat next to Daniel on the couch and brought up the topic she had been thinking about for months. "So what happens to the old Corolla now? You know, I've been managing with Uber and buses, and sometimes it's so stressful taking the children to school and the hospital. Maybe I could be using it now that you have another one." Daniel thought for a while and then said, "H about that." He was actually thinking of selling it. You know, the maintenance is getting too expensive, and besides, the market price is still good now. Sophia's smell faded, but she nodded slowly. Daniel had always been careful with money, so maybe he was right. She decided not to push it further that night. However, weeks later, she couldn't help but notice something strange. The old white Toyota Corolla, the same one Daniel said he wanted to sell, was still parked in the compound sometimes, and other time it disappeared for hours or even days. Whenever she asked about it, Daniel always had the same casual answer. "Oh, the dealer came to test it all. I moved it to a friend's place until the sales goes through." His tone was always calm, as if he had rehead it. And because Sophia trusted him, she didn't press further until the day the call came in. It was a warm Friday afternoon, and Sophia was arranging throw pillows in the living room when her phone rang. She smiled and picked up when she saw that it was her friend Chloe calling. "Hey babe, what's up?" But Chloe's voice was surgent. "Sophie, listen carefully. I'm at Marina Mall right now, and I just saw your husband's Corolla. Same platter number, and same scratch on the left door from when you bumped the gate last year." Sophia P. in confusion. "My husband's Corolla, but Daniel said he was selling it. Maybe the buyer is testing it now." Chloe lowered her voice. "Sophie, I followed the car just to be sure. A woman is driving it, not a dealer, not a mechanic, and she wasn't even acting as if she borrowed it. She parked, stepped out confidently, and locked it as if it were hers." Sophia froze and started stammering. Are you sure it's the same car?" Chloe nodded firmly. "Sophie, it is the same scratch, the same plate number, the same everything. And guess what? I didn't want to tell you this, but she was holding Daniel's Blackwater flax. You know, the one you bought for him when we went to trade fair last year." The living room suddenly felt smaller, hotter, and suffocating. Sophia lowered herself onto the couch, staring blankly at the wall. She wanted to believe there was a logical explanation to it. Maybe Danielle loaned the cat to a colleague. Maybe it was work-related. Maybe there was something, anything that could make sense. But deep down in that corner of her heart she rarely visited, she felt the first sharp sting of betrayal. That night, Daniel came home cheerful, singing happily as he tossed his car keys on the console and kissed Sophia's forehead. He talked casually about his day, lightly and warmly, as if their life was perfectly normal. Sophia sat on the side of the couch, forcing a smile and nodding at the right moment, but saying little. However, as she watched him laughing and scrolling through his phone, looking so calm and sure of himself, a cold realization began to form inside her. The man she loved, the man she trusted, the father of her children, was hiding something from her, something bigger than she ever imagined. Sophia did not sleep that night. She lay still, staring at the ceiling fan as it rotated slowly. Her mind was a tangled mess. Chloe's words replayed over and over, striking her chest like a slap. "Sophie, I saw your husband's car. A woman was driving it, and she was holding Daniel's black water flax." The more Sophia thought about it, the more the confusion burned inside her. Daniel had said he was selling the Corolla. He had looked her straight in the eyes when he said it, calm and convincing like a man with nothing to hide. But if Chloe was right, if that car wasn't sold, if another woman was truly using it, then Daniel wasn't just lying. He was living an entirely different life behind her back. By dawn, Sophia's mind was made up. She needed answers, but she couldn't confront him yet, not without proof. Daniel was clever with his words. He always managed to twist every situation until she was the one apologizing for doubting him. So no thank you. This time she would find out the truth herself. That morning she called Chloe. "I need you." Chloe was instantly alert. "Say no more. I'll be right there." They met later that afternoon at a cafe across from Marina Mall, where Chloe had first spotted the car. Sophie sat with her hands clapped tightly around her cup of tea as Chloe leaned forward. "Sophie, I didn't want to believe it either, but I know what I saw. That woman isn't just a random person. I have seen her before. Her name is Vanessa, and she's known." Sophia frowned. Known for what? Chloe hesitated. "For dating married men. She works at a boutique in Lekki. But Sophie, this woman's lifestyle isn't funded by boutique salaries. And now I think Daniel is one of her sponsors." Sophia's stomach twisted violently as her heart slammed against her ribs. A cold, sharp fear settled inside her, but she forced herself to stay calm. "I need proof, Chloe. I need to see her with that scar again. I need to know if Daniel gave it to her truly." And so the next Tuesday, Sophia dropped the children at school, then called Chloe, who drove her to the boutique where Vanessa worked. They waited in Chloe's car, hiding behind a row of palm trees. Sophia's finger stabs nervously against her knee as she watched every car passing by. An hour later, Chloe suddenly nudged her arm. Sophie looked, and there it was, the white Toyota Corolla. Sophie's car. Yes, her husband's car was also her own. The car had the same tiny dent on the left door, the same faded bomb sticker, and the same plate number she memorized by heart. Vanessa stepped out of the driver's seat, wearing a short red tight dress that hugged her curves and carrying a designer handbag. Sophia knew she couldn't afford on a boutique worker's salary. She locked the door confidently, then strutted into a cafe across the street, swaying her hips as if she owned the world. Sophia sat frozen, gripping Chloe's arm so hard that it hurt. Her mouth went dry and her throat closed up as reality crashed over her in slow motion. So Daniel hadn't sold the car. He had given it to his girlfriend. That evening, Sophia waited for Daniel to come home. Her chest was tight and her heart was pounding so loudly that she thought the walls could hear it. When he walked in cheerfully as usual, she looked at him deeply and almost laughed at how calm, how proud, and how normal he appeared. She waited until after dinner and until the children were asleep before she finally asked Daniel about the Cora. Daniel looked up casually from his phone. "What's about it?" Sophie continued. "Did you sell it?" Danielle nodded without hesitation. "Of course I told you already, Sophie. Why are you bringing this up again?" She stared at him for a long moment and then scoffed. "That's funny, because Chloe said she saw a woman named Vanessa driving it today." Daniel froze for half a second. Just half full, but Sophia saw it. She saw the flash of panic in his eyes before he recovered. Daniel leaned back on the couch with a sarcastic laugh. "Vanessa, what's nonsense? I think Chloe needs glasses. Do you now believe every rumor people tell you? But Sophie wasn't blinking or second-guessing herself this time. She looked him in the eye and said it wasn't a rumor. Same plate number, same scratch, same car. Daniel, do not lie to me, face. Much to her shock, Daniel's tone shifted instantly and it became sharp and defensive. Sophia, stop acting like a detective in my house. It is my car. I can do whatever I want with it. Now those words hit Sophia like ice water. My car, not our car, not the family's car, his car. And he had given it to a stranger. No, not just a stranger, but his girlfriend, while she, his wife, begged for it to use for the children. Sophia walked away from him that night. She locked herself in the bathroom, Satan the cold ties, and cried silently into her hands. But as she cried, something inside her hardened. It wasn't just about the car anymore. It wasn't even about Vanessa. It was about Thales, the disrespect and the humiliation. The fact that Daniel looked her in the eye and chose to deceive her, while funding another woman's comfort with the resources meant for their family. Sophia stood up, cleaned her eyes, and made a promise to herself. I will not let this go, not this time. If he thinks he can take me for granted, he's about to learn who I really am. Sophia woke up the next morning with swollen eyes and a pounding headache and turned to look at Daniel, who was sleeping peacefully beside her, as if nothing had happened. She stared at him for a long moment, and anger made her chest rise and fall. She thought of the years she had stood by this man, the sacrifices and compromise she had made. The night she stayed up calculating how to stretch Daniel's salary so that the kids wouldn't lack anything. The times she had defended him, when people talked about his selfishness, and now after everything, the one thing she had begged for, a simple car to make life easier for their children. He had given it to his side chick. That morning the house was heavy with silence. Sophia moved about the house like a ghost, feeding the kids, packing their school bags, and fixing their uniforms without saying a word to Daniel. He noticed her silence, but instead of apologizing, he leaned on arrogance like a crutch. Sophie, are we really going to do this? You are giving me attitude over a car. Sophia scoffed. I am giving you silence over betrayal. Daniel laughed bitterly. Betrayal? You act as if I brought another woman into our bedroom. It's just a car, Sophia. Sophia turned sharply. Don't you dare reduce this to just a car. It is Thales, Daniel. You looked me in the eye and lied. And then you gave the car I begged for to your girlfriend. You would rather I and your children suffer just to give your side hand comfort. Daniel scoffed, shook his head, and grabbed his briefcase. You are blowing this out of proportion. Sophia, I don't have time for this drama. With that, he walked out of the house, leaving Sophia standing by the kitchen counter, trembling with suppressed rage. The following week, one of their neighbors cornered Sophia one morning as she walked the kids to school. Sophia, my dear, I saw someone driving your Corolla yesterday near the Lekki Mall. That lady has style. She even waved at me as if she owns the world. Sophia forced a tight smile and mumbled something about errands before hurrying away. But inside, she burned with shame. Now, if their neighbor had seen Vanessa driving the car, it meant the entire neighborhood would soon know. And she was right, because 2 days later, while she was picking up groceries, she overheard two women by the vegetable stand gossiping. Do you know Sophia's husband bought a prow but gave the old car to his girlfriend? The second woman gasps. Huh? Man, and she's still trekking under this hot sun. God forbid. Sophia's fingers tightened around the basket handle and her throat became dry, but she swallowed her pride and walked past them with her head high, refusing to let them see her break. Later that weekend, Chloe convinced Sophia to confront Vanessa directly. Sophie, enough is enough. This isn't just about Daniel anymore. This woman is flaunting your humiliation publicly. You can't keep quiet forever. So they drove to Vanessa's boutique in Lekki Phase 1 where Vanessa stood behind the counter, tapping against her phone with her perfectly punished nails. Sophia stepped forward and called out, Excuse me, Vanessa writes, we need to talk. Vanessa looked up and her glossy lips curled into a slow, mocking smile. She leaned casually against the counter and crossed her arms. Oh, you must be Sophia, Danielle's wife. Finally we meet. Sophia's fist clenched at her sides, but she refused to lose composure. "That car you are driving, the white Corolla, it belongs to my family. I begged Daniel to leave it for me so I could take my kids to school and the hospital, but he gave it to you. Don't you feel any shame?" Vanessa giggled and flipped her, straightened her over her shoulder. "Shame? My dear, it is not my fault your husband loves me enough to give me things. If he chooses me over you, maybe you should ask yourself why." Chloe launched forward, but Sophia grabbed her wrist and stopped her. "All right, enjoy the car, Vanessa. Enjoy the gifts and everything, but remember this. Karma always collects her debts." Vanessa smirked but said nothing as Sophia and Chloe walked out. That night when Daniel came home, he was furious. He started shouting the moment he stepped inside. "Are you out of your mind, Sophia? You went to Vanessa's boutique. Are you trying to embarrass me?" Sophia shook her head. "You embarrassed yourself, Daniel. I just went to meet the woman driving the car I begged you for." Daniel slammed his keys on the table. "You had no rights." Sophia lost her cool and snapped. "I had every right, Daniel. I am your wife, and you stand in this house and choose to humiliate me in front of the entire city." For the first time ever since they got married, Sophia saw Daniel's mark sleep. He wasn't calm anymore or charming. He was angry, defensive, and selfish. He stormed out and slammed the door behind him, leaving Sophia shaking from hurt and betrayal. Moving on, Daniel's household was never the same. Sophia had stopped shouting and stopped questioning. On the surface, it looked like she had surrendered and accepted her humiliation in silence. But inside, something had risen. She was watching and planning. But Daniel, on the other hand, mistook her silence for weakness. He started spending more nights working late and returning home long after midnight with traces of Vanessa's perfume on his shirt. He even stopped hiding his phone, stopped pretending to care about explanations. And when he looked at Sophia, his once innocent eyes were now filled with arrogance, as if he believed she had no choice but to endure it. However, Daniel didn't know his wife had changed. Sophia wasn't the woman who cried in the bathroom 2 weeks ago. She was now far more dangerous. Sophia knew Daniel would never confess, so she started gathering proof silently. With Chloe's help, she began piecing together every lie he thought he had hidden. Chloe found out through a mutual friend that Daniel had registered the old Corolla in Vanessa's name. She discovered boutique receipts, designer clothes, luxury shoes, wigs, perfumes, all paid for using Daniel's personal bank account. And most shocking of all, Chloe overheard Vanessa bragging at Marina Mall, telling her friends that Daniel said his wife doesn't need the car. "She doesn't even drive. That car is mine forever now." Sophia's chest tightened when she heard that. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was deliberate disrespect. By the end of the month, Sophia had gathered screenshots, bank statements, photos of Vanessa driving the Corolla, and voice recordings of her bragging. She didn't tell Daniel or confront Vanessa again. She just stayed calm, collected, and composed because she had a bigger plan. She quietly organized a family gathering at her mother's house one Sunday afternoon, where she invited Daniel's siblings, his 2 closest friends, and even his beloved uncle, who adored him and always praised him as the most responsible husband ever. Daniel didn't suspect nothing. He walked into the gathering wearing his expensive navy blue shirts, smiling broadly, confident and relaxed, the perfect picture of a proud family man. He greeted everyone, hugged the kids, and sat comfortably at the head of the table, completely unaware that the walls were about to close in on him. After lunch, Sophia stood up slowly and smiled. "Before we end today, there is something important I need to share with the family." Daniel frowned, but he leaned back and crossed his arms casually. Sophia walked to the television, plugged in a small flash drive, and pressed play. The living room fell into silence. On the screen, photos appeared. There were photos of Vanessa stepping out of the Corolla, locking it confidently and posing in front of boutiques. Then came screenshots of bank transfers. Tens of thousands of naira sent to her every week. Finally, Chloe's recorded audio played. It was Vanessa's voice, laughing proudly as she said, "Daniel said the car was mine because his wife doesn't need it. The room went dead silent. Daniel's confident smile disappeared and his eyes darted around as everyone looked at him with judgmental eyes. His uncle leaned forward and frowned deeply. "Daniel, is this true?" Daniel opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. But now words came out before he could recover. His younger sister spoke up angrily. "Daniel, you gave your girlfriend the car your wife begged for, and you lied to all of us. Do you even respect this family?" Daniel tried to defend himself. It's not what it looks like. "Sophia, how could you embarrass me like this in front of everyone?" Sophia finally looked at him. "No, Daniel, you embarrassed yourself. You chose her comfort over your children's needs. You lied to me. You lied to your family and you lied to yourself." Daniel clenched his fist. Bute had nothing left to say. Every eye in the room was on him, and in that moment he felt small, cornered, and humiliated. Unfortunately, the aftermath was brutal. After the picture spread among the extended family and church community, Daniel's transfer stopped, and so did Vanessa's interest. She left him within a week, blocked his number, and deleted every trace of him online. Well, she kept the car, because it was already registered in her name. Daniel's siblings were furious. His uncle stopped defending him, and even his close friends avoided him, mocking him behind his back about his recklessness. At work, rumor reached his colleagues, and Daniel began losing projects because his responsible family man image, the one he carefully built, had collapsed publicly. For the first time, Daniel realized he had dug a hole so deep that he couldn't be saved from. He begged Sophia for forgiveness, swearing he would change, swearing he would make things right, and promising to buy her a new car and restore her dignity. Sophia listened quietly and then said, "This isn't about the car anymore, Daniel. It is about respect and trust, and both of them are broken." She did not file for divorce immediately, but she made it clear she was stepping away emotionally until she saw genuine change. So she moved out and started focusing on her children, her business, and herself. She stopped waiting for Daniel's promises and began building her own stability. Daniel tried everything. He sent gifts, apologies, and empty speeches. But Sophia had changed. She was no longer the quiet, soft-hearted woman who believed everything he said. She had learned the hardest lesson of all, which was that when a man shows you where you stand in his life, believe him. Thank you for watching this story. Kindly share your thoughts about this story with SMI in the comment section. Give the story a thumbs up and share this story out with your loved ones that subscribe to this channel if you've not done so by now. Until I bring another story your way,